Hi everybody. The topic of this video is care for elderly A through Z. So many caregivers that I talk to say, well, Pamela, what should I know about caring for elderly parents or caring for myself or caring for grandma or grandpa? So what I thought I would do is go through my website and all of the content there and see if I could pull up articles that match the letters of the alphabet A through Z. So in this video, I'm going to take you through the A through Z of care for elderly parents, a wide number of 26 topics. And for every topic, I'm going to refer to you, because I made a list, refer you to an article or a podcast or something on my website, which is PamelaDWilson.com. So stay with me for this entire video, because even if nothing in A, B, and C are what you're looking for, there may be something in the remainder of the alphabet that is something that you have been searching for and you can't find information, and it's all right here. The other thing that I'm going to do is two other things. I will place below this video links to every A through Z article that I mention and briefly explain here. There will also be a page on my website where these articles will be listed, and there'll be more information there. And I will also turn this into a podcast so that regardless of how people find this information, whether you like to watch a video, listen to a podcast, or you want to see it all on a written page, it will be there. So if you're looking for the podcast number, it's going to be podcast number 215. Okay, and the way that you find that is you go to my website, PamelaDWilson.com, go to the media page, scroll down, find the Caring Generation podcast, click on that, and then you can look for number 215. So before we get into this, if this is your first time here, I'm Pamela D Wilson. I'm a caregiving expert, advocate, and speaker. Lots of information on my website, which I'm going to share in this video. You can also schedule a one-to-one consultation with me. There are courses on my website, a lot of free information. Please do help other people find their way here. Press the like button on this video. Press the follow button on my channel and comment, even if it's only to say thank you for the information. Your participation in saying thank you or sharing your story, I do respond to every comment, sharing your story, helps other people find their way here. So let's get started. The letter A is for advocacy. And the article that matches this is called 10 Tips to Advocate for Care in an Imperfect and Sometimes Insensitive Healthcare System. If you are a caregiver, you know that you can struggle to work with doctors, nurses, hospital staff, nursing homes, insurance companies. It can be so frustrating because it seems like no one cares or nobody really has the time to help you. And so in this article, again, link below under letter A for advocacy, one of the important tips is to establish relationships with people and become likable. Now, you've probably heard the saying, catch more flies with honey. If you want people to help you, as much as you may want to yell and scream and throw a tantrum because you've not been treated well or people haven't been helpful, that is not going to help you get the help you want. Becoming likable will get you a lot further. So after this video is done, scroll below, find the article. The letter B is for bathing. The article that matches this is called Eliminating Fear and Turning Refusals into Agreements. If you have ever tried to convince an elderly parent or loved one with dementia to bathe or change their clothes, you know this can be quite frustrating and it can be a battle because they'll say, I just took a bath. What's the matter? My clothes are clean. I changed my clothes. And you may want to just scream. And trying to convince them to do this takes a bit of finesse and it takes a lot of learning. So, B, bathing. Find the article below. C is for choices. You have choices. Everyone has choices. Even though so many caregivers say, oh, Pamela, I didn't have a choice to become a caregiver. I just had to do it. There was nobody else around. Caregivers tell me that they're stuck. The article corresponding with C for choices is, how do I accept my choices as a caregiver? These are all articles on my website. They are all articles that I have personally written and experienced in my 25 years of helping older adults and their caregivers. D is for dementia. The article that matches with this that I chose is, my spouse with dementia doesn't know me. If you are a spousal caregiver, truly that moment that your husband or wife thinks that you're their mother or father or brother or sister, or they don't even know who you are, that can be heartbreaking. It can also be heartbreaking for children of a parent when your parent doesn't recognize who you are anymore. Scroll down to find that article. E is for expectations. This is a big one. And the article that I chose to match this is called When Aging Parents Expect Too Much. Expectation setting. Having early conversations. It's a huge part of being a caregiver. Not setting expectations is one of the reasons that caregivers say, oh, I didn't have a choice, I had to do this. If you want choices, you must have discussions and you must set expectations up front before you start devoting too much time to helping aging parents. F is for facility. Now, people in the medical profession use the word facility. I prefer to use the word community. But a facility can be a hospital, a nursing home, an assisted living community, memory care, a personal care home. The article that I chose to match with F for facility is Discharge from Facility, Why the Elderly Are Refused Care in Hospitals, Nursing Homes, and Assisted Living. If you are thinking about placing a loved one in a care community, or you have a loved one in a care community, this is an article that you won't want to miss because it's important to learn why your parents or grandparents or adults are discharged, meaning thrown out of facilities, so that you and the person that you care for can be prepared and know about how this works. There's also a podcast associated with this article. It's podcast 209. G is for guardianship. I served as a professional guardian in the probate system and the court system from 2007 to 2018. Family members are often very confused about what guardianship means, including the legal process of being appointed a guardian. So the article that I chose for this is called, What Does Guardianship of an Elderly Parent Mean? Again, scroll below, find the letter G. You will find the link to the article. H, hospitalizations. Depending on your health condition or care needs of an elderly parent, a hospitalization can be a really good thing or a really bad thing. If your elderly parent is admitted to the hospital for any kind of treatment, make sure, be diligent, show up and advocate, because when you're admitted to the hospital, let's face it, you don't feel well. You're sick. Maybe your parent has had a heart attack, or they've broken a hip and they're stressed and it's frightening and there's all these strange people around, especially if somebody has dementia, right? And honestly, being in the hospital, it is no picnic, especially if you're not feeling well. So the article that I chose for this is The Hazards of Hospitalization for the Elderly. Link is below. I is for I am so tired of being a caregiver. The article is titled the same name. I'm so tired of being a caregiver. Who isn't? This article gives a serious and a lighthearted look, so it's balanced, at the blessings and the struggles of being a caregiver. And it shares a lot of experiences from my years as care manager for the elderly and helping family caregivers. This would be a great article to share with other people in your family who may not understand or appreciate anything that you do. J. J is for job, specifically how to keep a job and care for elderly parents. If you are a working spouse or an adult child, you may know that balancing your life and holding down a job to pay the bills, that can be a struggle. The article shares a lot of statistics and research and insight about caregivers who work, why they think about quitting their jobs, the experience of potentially being discriminated in the workplace. Because when you think of it, raising children, having children, taking time off to take kids to basketball games and attending after-school conferences and things like that, totally acceptable. Caring for an elderly parent and taking time off, it has not quite received the same level of acceptance and understanding by supervisors in the workplace. That article is below. The letter K. K is for no. The article that I chose for this is called Power of Attorney, What Family Caregivers Don't Know. If you are a spouse and you're a caregiver and you haven't named an agent to act for you as power of attorney, you're in the same space as your parents. Maybe you're an adult child and you're looking at your parents and you're thinking, they haven't done any legal planning. They haven't named a power of attorney. This article is based on my experience as a professional power of attorney, both medical and financial, so there are two. And there's differences between power of attorney documents. So scroll down, find the article Power of Attorney, What Family Caregivers Don't Know, for the letter K. L is for love. Why is caregiving so exhausting even when you love your parents? It's a good question, isn't it? Scroll down to find that article. M, marriage. This one is called Choosing Between a Spouse and an Elderly Parent is Ruining My Marriage. How many couples never talk about, gosh, what happens if your parents get sick? Or what happens if your parents get sick? How are we going to help them? Are we going to help them? Who's going to bear the majority of that responsibility? If it's your parents, is it you? If it's my parents, is it me? What are we willing to do? What are we not willing to do? How is that going to affect our relationship and our retirement and our children and our future and everything? Few spouses have this conversation. Instead, they just jump in and start helping, and then everything goes to heck. So, letter M, marriage. Choosing between a spouse and an elderly parent is ruining my marriage. Scroll down to find that article. N, no life. Caregiving regrets. I have no life. I have no job. I've given it up. Got no friends. Got no social life. I have nothing. Because, remember letter C, I made the choice to give up everything I was doing in my life to care for an elderly parent. Because at the time, I didn't have a choice. It seemed like the right thing to do. And now, I have no life. O, overwhelming. 10 reasons why caring for aging parents can feel overwhelming. This is actually a very lighthearted and humorous article that I wrote. There are some video features in there. It's one really not to miss. And if you have other friends who are caregiving and they're overwhelmed and stressed and they're just like, oh my gosh, how do I manage through this? Great article to share. Scroll down, look for the letter O, 10 reasons why caring for aging parents can feel overwhelming. P, this one again I chose Power of Attorney. Power of Attorney for an Elderly Parent is the article because I have so many questions that come up about this. Now the other one that I'm linking to this one is when one sibling takes care of parents, so the letter P for parents, what are the challenges that relate to that? So I've actually chosen 2 articles for P, power of attorney and care of aging parents. Q, quit. Why do caregivers quit? And this one is called The Costs of Caregiving, the Financial and Emotional Stressors Related to Caregiving. So some caregivers are like, I can't do this anymore, I'm going to quit. Some caregivers are like, well, I'm going to quit my job. That seems like the logical thing to care for an elderly parent. Well, what are the long-term effects of that? You might be surprised. And so many caregivers say, well, Pamela, it's only going to be for like 3 months or 6 months. Well, what happens is 3 or 5 years later, these caregivers are still in that position and they're like, why did I quit my job? What was I thinking? Why didn't I quit being a caregiver? Why didn't I find other options? The letter R is for rights. And this one I'm relating to an article called Dementia, Human Rights and Choices. Because when a person has dementia, if they have not planned accordingly to name a power of attorney agent that they trust, and sometimes even if they have, if there's a lot of family battles, so if you go to that article, you know, what happens when siblings share responsibility, there can be a lot of disagreements in families about care for an elderly parent or care for a spouse or care for something. But what happens in all of this is what the person with dementia would have wanted and what their choices are totally get lost, right? This can get so emotional for family members that they're like, well, I want this and I want this and I want this. Well, it's not really what you want. It's what did the person with dementia want? That's what gets forgotten. Some people with dementia have no human rights. Their choices are taken away, especially by court systems. And there's a lot of information about this on my website. The court system, the probate court system, depending on what state you live in, is not always friendly and supportive of a person with memory loss. Sometimes they appoint a family guardian or they appoint a professional and it just all goes wrong. So much more about that on my website. S. The letter S is for sibling or siblings. The article that I chose for this, which has been very popular, is your sibling abusing power of attorney for elderly parent? So sometimes parents choose a child to be a power of attorney agent and they do it because really there's nobody else, right? But it wasn't an ideal choice. Maybe that child wasn't good at managing money, which means they're not going to be good at managing the parents' money, or they've got no healthcare skills or medical skills, or they don't know how to navigate. Now, the thing here is most normal consumers don't have this experience, okay? So that's the risk in appointing a family member, even though the most logical thing to do is to appoint a family member. The most important thing to think about this is if you're appointing a child, in your power of attorney document it says they can go seek help, they can go seek advice. The way to make sure that your parent is getting good care if you are an agent under power of attorney and you don't have financial management skills and you don't know anything about the healthcare system, is to consult with someone like me, someone who is an expert, who knows the ins and the outs and things that can go wrong and things that you should watch out for and all of that kind of stuff. Because I would have so many family members come to me and say, well, I never knew that. Nobody ever told me. And I'm like, I wouldn't expect you to know that because you don't have the background and you don't have the experience. And this is just new to you, right? But this is how family members get into trouble because they don't know. And they say, nobody told me. And sometimes people did tell them, but when you're a caregiver, you're so stressed out, right? You're coming and going and you have all this information and you just don't pay attention. So you miss something that can harm your aging parent. It was unintentional, but it happened. Okay, next letter, T. Too much. What happens when caregiving becomes too much? There are times when caregivers are honestly, like I was saying, just so overwhelmed that you've got all these things that you're worried about for your parent. And then maybe you have your work life and your family and you got other stuff going on over here that it's all you can do to think about is like one thing at a time. You have to like compartmentalize things like today I'm going to work on this and tomorrow it's going to be that and this is going to be the next day. It all just becomes so overwhelming. And if you've never been in this situation, it's a sense of like continued trauma and continued problems that you're dealing with, and it never gets easier, and it's hard, and nobody's helping you, and it's just miserable. So, T, too much. Scroll down, find the article about 5 things to do when caregiving becomes too much. U, the article that I chose for this is urinary tract infections. How urinary tract infections result in confusion and delusions for elderly parents, including delirium. So what most people don't realize is that older people, especially those with incontinence or dementia, frequently can experience urinary tract infections. And initially, these might be seen as a parent who becomes confused or agitated or angry, or maybe they have a fall, right? And nobody thinks to look at this because they're like, well, it's just, it's what happens to mom and dad, right? But these urinary tract infections can repeat and repeat and repeat unless you find a way to stop them. And they can also turn into more serious health conditions. So very important topic that people don't want to talk about, but the article is below. So as I go through the end of the alphabet, it was harder for me to find articles. So I'm going to do a little bit of cheating and find these letters in words. So for the letter V, the word is over. O-V-E-R. And the article that I chose for this is when an elderly mother lets a husband, usually a second marriage, and his family take over. This article is all about dealing with stepfamilies, the blessings, the curses of dealing with stepfamilies, especially if you have 2 sets of parents, which you do, right? So these are not your original parents. You have your parent, and then there is this, I hate to say it, but stranger who has another family over here. And the question is, if these 2 people who got married didn't have prior discussions about what if one of us needs care? Whose money pays for that? How does that work? Which of our children are going to help out? It can become an absolute nightmare. So check out the article when an elderly mother lets a husband and his family take over, and learn what the risks are and what you can do. W, this one was a little easier because I chose part of my background, which is being an expert witness. So W is for witness. So expert witnesses like myself are used in legal situations, usually litigation, to support one side or the other. Experts like myself generally have educational or practical experience, or both, which is usually best. Now I'm going to get into some legal terms here just so you understand this, but there's a standard called Daubert that has a couple of factors. So for example, for an expert, it's whether a technique or some kind of theory can be used or tested to support an opinion, and whether this information has been publicized or reviewed by peers, people with similar experience, whether there are any kind of standards of control or standards of practice in place, and whether these standards are generally accepted, whether they're widespread. There's also something called Federal Rules of Evidence 702, which does ask the question, does specialized knowledge help in understanding facts when an expert has the knowledge, skills, experience, training, education to offer an opinion? And then whether this opinion is relying on all of these principles and methods to support the facts. So the link to the page on my website is Expert Witness, Caregiving, Home Care, and Guardianship, and there's also another Expert Witness page that I will put below. If you're ever in a situation, or if you're an attorney watching this video, you can learn about the expert services that I offer in the link under W. Okay, we are moving on to X, Y, and Z. X was a hard one, but I did find a word. It was toxic, T-O-X-I-C. And the article that I chose for this is Toxic Caregiving Habits, How They Damage Family Relationships. And to put this into context, caregivers, because of stress, can get stuck in patterns of behavior that become really unhelpful. Blaming or controlling are two of these. You blame your brothers or sisters for not helping, and then they don't help, and they scatter, and they disappear, and they want nothing to do with you. Well, why is that? Because you blamed them or you accused them. The other one is controlling. You want everything done your way. Nobody does it as good as you do. It has to be done this way. And so let's say maybe your family was helping or other people were helping, and you criticize them. And so they're like, well, I'll help, but you can't tell me like how to do it. If I'm going to help, I want to help in my own way. Now, there can be some guidelines there, but if you have to control everything and all you're doing is blaming and complaining, you have to ask the question, who's going to want to be around you? Who is going to want to help you? Probably nobody. And so basically your habits, these toxic habits that resulted from you being so stressed out, have damaged relationships that may or may not be repairable. The next one is why. This one always makes me think of that song like YMCA, right? Well, so Y is for why, W-H-Y. The article that I chose for this is, are you tired of caregiving? Why saying no to caregiving is easier than you think. This article talks about caregivers who always say yes to the point that you become exhausted and overburdened and resentful. There's a middle ground here, and then there's like saying no. You can say yes, but. Yes, but means if I do this, I expect you to do this in return, so that caregiving is more balanced. It's just not going to be me doing and doing and doing and doing, and you, mom or dad, sitting back, receiving, and not having to do anything. There has to be some equal level of participation, if that's at all possible. Or you can just start saying no. Can't take on any more work. We need to look at other options for your care, even if we have to pay for it or bring people in. No, I'm not going to quit my job. No, I'm not going to keep flying across the country to help you. No, I'm not going to give up my marriage or damage my health or give up activities I love. No, because caregiving at this point in my life is draining every last ounce of joy that ever existed. To turn that around, you've got to start saying no or yes, but. But don't let the yeses stack up to the point where you're just like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. Because then you're going to want to go back to the letter Q, which is, why do caregivers quit? The article for this is below. Z, this was a hard one because I have no Z words in caregiving articles, which now I'm going to have to think and write one, right? But the word I found was recognize. So this one kind of relates to the article that matches the letter X. This one talks about self-destructive caregiving behaviors, but it's different. So this one is about recognizing behaviors that harm your health and your well-being. So do you ever notice that when something crazy happens and you're stressed, how do you react? Or is there some kind of trigger? Like mom or dad says this and you're just like, you're blowing up and you're so upset, right? So A causes B. But the B is not a good thing. So you're stressed, you're upset, you're grabbing for a cigarette, or you want a box of cookies, or a pizza, or a bag of chips, or whatever, and you're just, or, even worse, alcohol or some other substance, right? And you feel good momentarily, but then after you do that, you're like, why did I do that? I was trying to be healthy. I was trying to take care of myself. But yet those cravings, those urges are so strong when you're feeling stressed. And if you don't recognize them and stop them and say, this is not good for me. You know, caregiving is causing me to do this. This is a stress response. If you don't make the connection and stop it, you're going to continue doing it. And so you're going to continue these self-destructive behaviors that really are causing more damage in your life. And so that's when you really have to ask the question, do I still want to be a caregiver? Can I still be a caregiver? And maybe the answer is, no, I can't. It's harming me physically, emotionally, personally. It's harming my family, my job, everything. There are places in your life where you have to set boundaries. So I thank you for being here. I know this was a long video. Every article that I have written, that I mentioned and I related to the alphabet is below this video. Please like this video, follow my channel, share this video with other people, comment, even if it's only to say thank you. You help other people find their ways here. And if you do comment and share a story, I respond. I respond to every single comment on this YouTube channel. So I thank you all for being here, and I will see you all again soon in another video.